mean, I did clothing for like 5-7 years, and I mean, I never experienced. I mean, I got up to like $1.5 million revenue top year. It turns out clothing wasn't my like calling.
Yeah.
But I did it for like 5 to 7 years, and so I like really started understanding like things, and even looking back, I was like, you scale it, but I was like, I don't think people need as much as they think they need, and but a lot of times it comes into the facade of like the perception you want people to think. Like it's kind of like with Christian, it's like you want everyone to think the business is like this crazy thing, so you're like, I need to have the biggest studio and have the biggest impact, but like it all matters how much profit you're going to your pocket.
And it actually doesn't do anything.
Yeah.
Like we get people come by, people like when we do, like, they have no clue how big we are. And I'm like, and because I kind of ate into that too. Oh, we need this office in LA when people come and athletes. No one gives a
Yeah. It's like cool, but like it's like, does it actually matter kind of thing?
So we got Maxx Chewning on.
What's up?
Welcome.
How we doing, brother?
Good, man.
Good to see you,
It's
man.
been a while. It's
I
been
know.
a while.
2 years or at least 2 years, right?
Yes, for sure.
It was crazy when you came in. You gave me a sample, and it was like, I think it was like, sour strips was what, maybe a couple $1 million then.
Yeah. I mean, if we did the podcast in like 22, then I guess year two, maybe we were under 20 million for like when I had the interview with you. So I mean, it's been, I don't know. Sour strips is something that like just was like this kind of cool idea that I had of this like passion for candy, and then it was like this giant snowball that I started, because like when I started Sour Strips, it wasn't this like, oh, I have a master plan. Here's this business plan. I see a gap in the market, and here's how I'm going to navigate it, and here's the areas I'm going to go into first, and here's my go-to-market strategy. I didn't have any of that. I was just like, oh, my buddy Christian started an energy drink company. He's like really likes energy drinks. Seemed to really take off. Oh, I really like candy. Like, I wonder if I can start a candy brand. And just started, and it was just this snowball that just.
So you kind of just fell into it. Like,
yeah. And I'm someone like I've learned a lot of things in business over the past, decade of whether it be clothing or the candy space, and the candy I've been doing for almost 6 years. But it was kind of one of those, like, I just figured it out as I went rather than like had this big plan. And if you were to ask me a bunch of questions like throughout like the business of like really, like if I was going to Shark Tank, they would ask me very specific questions about the business. I'd be like, I don't know. They'd be like, what's your customer acquisition cost? Like, I don't know. Like, what's your marketing budget each month? I'm like, I don't know. I just like when I see things I want to spend money on, I decide like that's what I want to do. I just do it. I don't analyze like, is this the best cost? Like, what return did I get on these like influencers that I sent candy to? Like, I didn't do any of that because I was just like, do we have enough money? Like this, are we making more money this month than last month? Okay, good. Like, okay, we can keep investing in into the business.
Right.
So you were running the business for 4 years, sold it for 7
for right at 5 years, really. So we had a 5-year anniversary in September, and I sold the company in November
for $75 million.
That's what the word has come out.
That's what the articles say online.
So it was quite a
no investors.
No investors. I started the business with $50,000.
That's incredible.
And that's just kind of like what it took to like. So the $50,000 is basically that's just how much money it cost for coming up with the ideas, everything that went into
Trademark,
it, and then and then for the up to like the first like 3 launches. So call it the first 3 months of business, because I would sell out as soon as I launched, and I did that 2 more times within like a month gap of each other of having to resupply. So basically, from like coming up with the idea, launching it, and supporting the first 2 months of launch was like $50,000. Like all of that started from $50,000 of spend. And honestly, like 10, 15 of that was just like getting the word out to all the influencers and like
getting product out.
Yeah, exactly. So it was a lot of like product cost.
What was the moment? Because obviously we're apparel guys, right? And like I don't know much about the candy industry.
I have a background in apparel, so I luckily kind of overlap.
Yeah, so you had the business acumen, but what was like that moment when you're like, candy is where I'm going? And then like, how did you like come across like Sour Strips, like because there's so many options that come to candy. There's chocolate, there's like everything, but like, what was like that moment? It's like, this is the product I'm going to go all in with.
Yeah. So in hindsight, I like realized what went through my brain, but like at the time, it wasn't this like very specific decision making. It was more of like, okay, I really, really like candy, like more than anyone I've ever met. And even at 30 years old, when I started the brand, I was like, even at 30, I'm eating just as much candy as I did when I was like 15, for better or worse, right?
So loyalist.
Very, yeah. And I was like, and I
love the product.
Yeah, and I say this story, I'm like, every time I walk down the candy, I go into any store, like a gas station, even to this day, especially to this day, I walk down the candy aisle because I'm just like seeing what's there, right? And as a candy enthusiast, we're a special breed. You notice when something's new because unlike the drink space maybe, or, like it's not every day that there's like a new candy popping up. Right. And when there is a new candy, it's generally a variation of like one of the people that have been around for a while. But you always notice when there's something new and you always try it because especially like a sour lover, you're like, oh, maybe this will be like amazing. You try it and 9 times out of 10, like you're let down maybe with like what you think it's going to be, right? Because again, the candy's been the same for like forever, right? So I kind of knew everything was out there, knew the branding that was out there. And I realized that like sour belts, which is essentially what sour strips are, we kind of popularized the name of sour strips, but they're sour belts. They're really like a candy that's popular in like Europe and kind of overseas. Okay. They've been around for a long time. It's like just extruded belt candy, right? But they're a candy that like is, they're made to be sold in bulk. Like that's what they're kind of designed for because they're long. They don't have a lot of structure, rigidity to them, right? They kind of flop around. Like when you go to, maybe before COVID, you would go to, the pick and mix candy stores and the bins and you'd open it up and you get the little bags. And like, that's where I like learned about this, this kind of candy, but like, you never saw it like in mass retail and just a gas station, right? There's a couple brands that started kind of doing similar things. So I was like, okay, the world doesn't really need another gummy bear at the moment, but I was like, hey, this belt candy, I sourced a manufacturer and this is the main product that they kind of produced. And I was like, I love these belt candies and I love that these, when I go to the movies, I go in the mall and I get it, but I was like, but it's annoying to have to go in the store and put it in there and it's all stale and people are touching it. Yeah. And I was also like, hey, I feel like a lot of people don't know about this candy, right? Like it isn't popularized over here. And if it is, it's in bulk format. So at that point I was like, oh, why don't we, build a brand around this product? And, the way we went about with like the branding was like, okay, I know everyone makes candy brands that are focused towards like younger demographics, kids of like the super cute characters, right? I was like, hey, I'm a 30-year-old. Why don't they make something a little more like modern, kind of like aggressive?
Yeah, for the general candy lover.
Yeah, so that's kind of the snowball of what went down. Yeah.
And how important was the packaging and kind of the branding to the success of it? Everything.
I mean, I think with, especially with CPG, like with something you're putting in your mouth, a food or a beverage product, it's kind of like clothing now. Like, I mean, how long has Cuts been around?
About 8 years.
8 years. Okay. So when you started Cuts like forever ago, like, you'd have like V1, V2, V3, because you were like learning of like what different, print types work. Oh, this print is starting to peel over time. Okay, let's learn about this new thing, right? And, different fabrics and you're learning about different seams and, but like you're improving over time. Now when someone comes into the game, like the bar is so high of what like the standard of like quality clothing should be that now if someone launches a clothing brand, it should basically be at like this level when everyone back in the day would start kind of like down here. So I think with the product, the expectation of like, it's gotta be really good is like the base, right?
You got to start there.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like your product has to be good, but that can't be the main differentiating factor, I think. Like, it can't be the only thing. Like, 'cause of course it has to be good. It has to be sour, taste good. Like that should be expected. But the branding, what's so good about a product that is the best product ever, but no one knows about it, right? So it's like the branding is, I think, even more important than the actual product itself. And so with like the packaging, I was like, okay, everyone does these like, colors and these specific things. Cause you go on the candy aisle and you see what's popular. And so I was like, what's good about sour strips is I was able to create a brand that was like, I knew exactly what the consumer would look for and what would stand out because I was the consumer of it, right? Like, I'm like, what would I really like? What would stand out to me? So I knew no matter what, if you put the candy in the store, people will find it. And as long as they try it, I know that they'll like it if they like sour candy because I've been eating sour candy my whole life and I know what's good and I think this is really good and I know other people think it's good. So I was like, I just need to get it out there. So with the packaging, I was like, okay, let's go with this like white packaging, which there's one other maybe candy brand that isn't really in super mass retail that does kind of white packaging, but really 99% of people do those colors. So I was like, let's do white. It kind of stands out. Let's have these characters that are a little more aggressive, a little more like these angry fruit characters. My buddy at the time who helped me design all the packaging was, he was like, we should make these like little angry fruit characters. And, and a lot of people would do maybe these like different tests of like, let's test the market and see if this is good. We just went on 99 designs, it was like, need a bunch of fruit characters.
$50K, that's all you got.
Yeah. We paid like $1,000, like $900 for like, the initial kind of like launch of these characters. And so I knew the branding just had to be cool. And it's honestly, I thought it was really cool when it started, but now the packaging is way better.
Yeah,
evolved over time.
Way better of just the evolution. But every detail that is like changed on that packaging, I can tell you like when it changed, why it changed, why it's like that, because everything was like approved by me. And so it's been this like wild ride of.
Yeah.
So tell me how the growth story. So you started with $50K, and then were you wholesale? Was it direct to consumer? Like how did that build to get to the 30, 40 million when you sold it?
Yeah. So my original plan was, I was like, oh, no one really sells candy online. I'll be the guy that sells candy online. At the time I was like, this is like my peak popularity on YouTube. I didn't know it at the time, but when I was 30, this is 2019. Like that was like the peak of YouTube for me personally, because that was right before COVID. That was right before short form TikTok started coming out. So the landscape shift on like what viewers were like looking for, but I was like booming on YouTube. So I launched it. It was like the perfect timing for me to launch product specifically. So when we launched with 20,000 units of candy, and we sold them in like 3 or 4 packs at the times. And so we sold out in like an hour, and then like a month later we sold out in like 30 minutes, another 20,000, and then it started getting slower on the sellouts. But I was like, oh, I'll sell online. But then like I was like naive to the fact that I thought that I could just like dominate online, because
alone.
Where I was like, people will buy candy online forever. I know you buy it in stores. So it was, again, I didn't have this like, I'll start online and then I'll go my go to retail strategy. It was like, let's just see what happens.
Just go for it.
So when we had all this success online, it was great because we're making all this.
And what is that? When you say success, was it $10 million or like what was?
Oh, I mean, I don't even know the revenue numbers. I mean, so between September and when I launched it, September 9th on my 30th birthday to the end of the year, we made $500K in revenue.
That's great.
Yeah. So in
all
3
online.
months, all online, 100% online. Or I might have been
through
one
your YouTube,
store.
through your friends' YouTubes, things like that.
Yeah, so I launched it. I launched it off this. I springboarded off my channel, right?
Yeah.
So I was like, booming on YouTube, and I created this big hype around the secret project that I was launching called a Project XX.
I remember that.
Yeah, and I got this like giant group of. I got like 250 influencers of like, hey, I'm not going to tell you what the product is, but if you want to be a part of this launch, like I'll send you the package. Like, and it started turning into this like everyone wanted to be a part of this like secret project that I had. Like, people be like,
I really like that.
People that like I didn't even know of these like influencers were like, hey, one of my friends, like people with like hundreds and hundreds of thousands of followers, be like, hey, my buddy sent me this, said you're looking for more people, like I'd be down. And at first people are kind of like, hey, what is it? And I was like, I can't tell you. I was like, but don't worry, it's nothing controversial. It's nothing that'll affect any of your sponsors you're already working with. You won't have any problem. Like, you're gonna like it, just trust me. But I can't tell you what it is. And so we like got like 250 as influencers where I'm like, all right, but on this day I need you to like, I need you to send me a video of you opening it and experiencing it. And we put a Christian who owns Alfleet had this idea that was like, you should send everyone a gift certificate for like a movie theater, because then they can take the candy that they just got to the movie and it kind of gets out in the world. And you're almost like guaranteeing you're like buying maybe a post, because it's kind of like, oh, I got this like gift card. So we like looked up everyone's
without asking for it.
Yeah, so we looked up everyone's address that we were sending it to, found the movie theater that was closest to them, bought the appropriate movie theater for them. Yeah. So we sent it all to them, and then so this big launch happens, and it launches online, and again we had 20,000 units, sells out in an hour. And it was just like big boom. I don't know how much revenue that was, but I was selling it for like less than I maybe am now, because I was naive to maybe what you have to sell to actually scale. So we did 500K in the first 3 months or so. And then from there, it was like online just kept like booming, really, because right after we launched, COVID happened, and couldn't have predicted that. And so then consumers are all at home.
You timed it perfect.
They can't go to stores. So everyone is at home. And I remember our first birthday, so it would be September of 2020, we launched cotton candy. And cotton candy, although a great flavor, is absolutely not one of our top sellers. But the cotton candy launch on our first year birthday, whether it been that was like right at the peak of COVID.
Yeah.
It was our first year birthday. But I mean, we had like 8,000 orders like that day. I mean, it just blew. No launch has ever touched cotton candy, and like cotton candy is not our best selling flavor.
Was that the second flavor you dropped?
It was the. No, we actually launched flavors before that, but just cotton candy on our 1-year birthday. It was right at the peak of COVID. It was so we were just making so much money, like in revenue or like profit, because we got all the margins. My team was like me, and what's interesting is the people that I started the company with are the same people that are working with me now. And so it was like me, Mona, who's like my right hand, and then some of the other employees that started packing orders for us that are now running operations and running marketing now, which is really cool to see the growth that they've had. But it was just like me and like 3 other people, and like we'd get like 2 people to help us pack like orders. So I didn't have any like big overhead. I was sharing an office at the time, so we were just like, I was just making money, right? But wasn't buying anything flashy. I was just like all back. I always treated the business accounts the same with my clothing. I always treated like business like because I was making money from YouTube and all that social media and sponsors. So I didn't need the cash from the business. So I treated the business like I'm not even allowed to touch that money. Like it's just
all back in.
Yeah, all back in. So it was like right at the peak of COVID happened. And so basically the growth is like I springboarded off like social media. The brand just blew up in the first year and a half. COVID happened. And then we attracted the buyers for like all these big retailers, because then they're trying to get people back in stores. So in October, of 2020, I got an email from the Target buyer that was like, hey, so every store, by the way, that we're in up until I sold the company has been like all those stores have come to us. I never had I was the sales team.
Probably from all the like influencer marketing and like
we started with Target, Walmart, and H-E-B. I mean, so it's like when you start with the behemoths,
everyone
else can be like, oh, I want this. So Target emailed me, said, hey, we've seen your candy. We'd like to, send me some samples, like to talk about it. And I was like, oh my gosh. And I remember posting the story on my Instagram. Like I blurred out all the things, but I was like, Target like emailed us, like they're interested. I kid you not. This is in October of 2020. Like a couple hours later, maybe like 3 hours later, I get an email from Walmart that says like, hey, we're interested in your candy. And it said like, please don't post this story on your...
So they're watching.
So they were probably slightly interested, saw that Target did it, but I'm like,
trying to get
me posting that Target maybe...
Open up more doors.
Yeah, it expedited the Walmart thing. So, retailers are trying to get people into the stores after COVID, so we launched, and I remember the first test was only supposed to be 300 stores into Target.
That's this beast of a test.
Well, 300, and they have the 1,900, but then like 2 months before we were supposed to launch, they go, hey, we actually we want to push this a little harder, and we want to launch into 1,300 stores on our first. So we launched into Target, 1,300 stores, and had this like giant event with H-E-B at that exact same time. So that was like the first like massive event of the company of like, this is going to push the entire team like to not only get all this product, pack it all up. We didn't really know what to do. How do we ship out at scale like this?
It's go time.
And you were doing your own 3PL at that time.
We've always done our own 3PL.
Wow.
Yeah, we've always done it. And so but that was the actual first point of the company where like it depleted the finances. Like, I mean, I never let the team know, but I was like, it was one of those like first world problems. Like I knew money was going to come in from all these payment terms, but like to support buying that amount of product ahead of time, then you have like 60, 90-day terms with like these buyers to like to get paid for it. So you have to like float, and once it launches, they're not paying you for 60 to 90 days, but if it sells like it should, in those 60, 90 days, they're going to be placing more POs until you get your first paid check, right? But you have to keep fronting all this cash. So it was this perfect timing of events that like, if we didn't launch with the success, peak online in COVID, get all of that, like all of the margin just from online, then launch on, I would have had to take investors, because like it got down to like, I think I might have had to like throw like 10K into transfer of my personal.
So 300 doors, how much float was that in
1,300
cash?
doors.
1,300 doors. How much float? Like was the max float?
It was probably...
Like millions or?
No, not millions. It was a couple 100,000 that we had to do. I mean, but again, I mean, when you start a company, like you're starting it in the most expensive way possible, because not only is like, you don't have the economies of scale, so you're not able to get, whether it be the boxes or even like your price negotiation with the manufacturer, you're not able to like lower those yet, because you haven't like proved yourself to scale. But you're also, you're also probably charging less than you maybe should. You don't know what, when I was selling to
margin.
stores, they were like, okay, like what's our price? And I go, oh, I don't know. Like, let me, I was like, okay, this sounds like a good price. Like, it wasn't this like, I didn't have a business partner to like run, like, what's a formula? What should be the margin? Because I remember before I started the company, I had a buddy who was a partner at a bunch of these brands who actually just exited a company and made hundreds of millions of dollars. When I was like running the idea by him, he's like, okay, like I know this space. He's like, you need to make the candy for like this price because you need to sell it for this price because no one's going to take it unless it's like under this. And I was like, well, I can't do any of that. Like that's, I'll make 5 cents a bag. And he's like, well, they're not going to take it if it's that. And I'm like,
Was he right?
well, no, because I was like, I'm gonna try my other method. So the other thing that I did was I carved out this new kind of category in the candy space of this like premium category.
Yeah. Okay.
Because sour strips are, if you go into any single store, we're probably $1 to $1.50 more expensive than if you compared like 3.5 ounces of sour strips versus 3.5 ounces of gummy worms, whatever. Like we're more expensive in every store, guaranteed all the time. But I was like, I can't sell it. I can't compete on price. Price can't be my differentiating factor. So I was like, I need to sell it at a premium. So I need to sell it over $3. And I remember when we got into our first like gas station store, I remember the manager kind of like grabbed a bag of like gummy worms or something and a bag of mine. He's like, these are you get more candy in these gummy worms and these are $1.50. Why would anyone pay like $3.50 for yours? I go, because it's better. Like I was like, I bet. This is what, and I just, again, this is just like my thought process. I go, even before I was maybe doing better in life, when I was younger, I know that if there's a new candy, regardless of the price, I'm going to try it. And if it's truly like that much better, even young Max, who's not making much money, I'd pay an extra $1 for a better candy. And I was like, I bet the world will too. So like no one else was selling candy for the price that we are, but I was like, I think we can sell it for a higher price because I have to support the company, to growth. I can't sell it for $1 a bag. It's costing me more than that to make the damn thing. And so I was like, I kind of bet on the fact that like you can charge more than everyone else has been charging, and then people will still buy it because it's that good.
Yeah,
and
the quality's better, and even just like the branding too. That's why it's so important.
Yeah, it was a cool thing, and we launched with the influencers, and then you started seeing like all these people that you know online. It's like, oh, I see them eating it.
Yeah.
So it's like this just viral moment. And like I was talking to you before the pod, is like I'd say around COVID and on, you started seeing a lot of, whether it be, Feastables and all these other brands, like all these people launching a sauce or a drink or a
brand,
a food, like, and it's like, but like there wasn't many people doing that when I started, especially candy. But like it started being this thing like right after COVID, where a lot of these big influencers were, probably getting approached by people who were like, you be the face of the brand, we'll do all the work. But for me, I was the face of the brand and I was also doing all the work. So I was like, so I just kind of got in early at the right time before the market kind of like got super saturated.
I think that's entrepreneurs' biggest strength. What you described there is just intuition. Like you talked to a buddy that was in the space, that probably had seen hundreds of brands and said, hey, here's what you need to be at.
Yeah.
But it's almost that blind faith when you start something that guy couldn't see. He couldn't see the price.
He was told me, he was like, it'll never work at the price. I was like, I need to sell for this. And he's like, that'll never work.
Yeah.
Like that'll never work in the space. And I was like, I'm gonna try it anyway.
Yeah, you trust your gut. And
and I was
even back to what you were saying earlier too, like being your own customer. I mean, that was like one of the things I think we had a competitive advantage starting Cuts, is like we're making clothes for ourselves, and like you're like, do we like this? Would we like that? From even like the ads or the look of it. So it's like
I think that was the biggest strength that I had with sour strips, is that like, and even to this day, is that's the competitive advantage I have over even a lot of like big brands, and it's a lot of what the value that I probably bring to Hershey as well, is that like I am the consumer of this product. I'm not like a business guy who
trying
is
to make
like
money.
Looking at like statistics and has graphs and here's why we should do this, and it's like no, like I love candy, and here's what I would look for if I was buying candy, and it also happens that I'm owning the candy brand, right? So I was able to do things that even small details. I mean, you look at sour strips and there's a giant viewing window, because I hate when I go to buy candy and I can't see what the candy is, and I just have to open it. And with sour candy, a lot of times there could be manufacturing issues where the like the acids and the sour, whether it be citric acid or malic acid or something, will start breaking down. It'll start creating like kind of moisture in the bag, and whether you've opened some and it's almost like sticky, and you eat it and you're like, oh, what is this? And it's almost like, I always call it like it's kind of like wet in the bag. I hated that. But I was like, I wish I could see so I could know to look for another pack that wasn't like that. So when I launched this brand, I was like, okay, I need not only a viewing window, but like a big viewing window. So you can see exactly what you're getting, because that's what I would want from a brand, right? And then even for us, it was...
packaging is so important.
Yeah, and even for us, it was no one was doing at scale resealable packages of a like 3 to 4 serving bag, right? You get them on the party pack and the big size, family pack, but you've probably eaten a bag of gummy worms.
Bad.
And you like, whether it goes stale, you open it and it rips the whole side of the bag. You're like, what do I do with this? You get sugar everywhere. It dumps out in your bag. So us having a resealability factor was like, okay, that adds to the premium factor. That helps a little bit of the price, but it's also...
It also adds price, too,
exactly.
Right? Yeah.
And so now it's like, the moms who want to give their kid a piece can like, can put it in their purse, and like it doesn't spill everywhere. So it was like these little things. I was like, people aren't doing this, and I learned why they're not, because it's really expensive and really difficult and like really hard to scale, and that's what I'm running into at scale now. But it was like these little things where like people weren't doing this, and I was like, that's really cool. No one's doing that. Like I would really like if it's kind of like when you do clothes. You're like, I love this pair of joggers from Nike, but I really wish it had this little feature, this little detail right here. Like you can create that where like you're a consumer of the product, but that's why I always, when people are trying to figure out like what business they should run, I'm like, you should just look at the things or the product services that you consume, use, buy, eat on a daily basis. And what is like something that you dislike about it or wish was different? Right. Because as small of a thing as it is, there's probably millions of people that think the same way as you, that would like this product as it is, but if it was just one thing different, they would really enjoy it.
Totally.
And it's just the first person to do those things. And a lot of people think they have to, solve world hunger to start a business. I'm like, you're solving pain points for people.
Problem solution.
Convenience, frustrations, it's like you're solving little problems for people. And if you can solve a little problem for a lot of people, you're going to make a lot of money.
Totally.
That was like these shirts. We've sold almost $200 million worth of this fabric, and it was solely just a Lululemon shirt without the logo and a little bit more. It wasn't as soft, so it was your premium work shirt that acted like a gym shirt. So it was just a little different, and people were like, "Oh, I've been looking for that," because Lululemon's not formal enough to wear to work.
That's what the thing is. People think with entrepreneurship is like, it's like they're like, oh no, that could never be a business. But that's like, and that's how the whole industry shifts, because all it takes is something being the same for a long period of time, and then a couple people coming in, changing one little thing about it, and it changes the course. Because I mean, look what Sour Strips has done in just the candy industry. Well, like no one was going against these big behemoth companies. Like no one was doing it. They would get crushed, and I'm like, I'll do it, right? Like I'll do this little thing. And what big companies really like about, a lot of people think that you're just going to get, squashed like a bug as soon as you start, encroaching into their, space, because that's exactly what you're doing. Is like you're stealing shelf space from these companies. So, when I go from 2 flavors in Target to 4 flavors at the next reset, someone else is gone. And like people don't really think about that. Like, there was 4 other bags of candy there. Those companies are out, and so you're starting to take this space from them. But a lot of these companies really like, smaller people to like, because you're doing all the testing for them, right? And so, because if they want to launch a new product, it's going to cost them
such a big investment.
Yeah, it's going to take so many people, so much investment, so much time to see if it works, or they can just see if someone else is doing it, see if the market will decide if like a product is deserving to be, on the shelf or on the rack, or, and then from there, that's when they're like, okay, now we can, with the Hershey's, like we can inject our resources, our know-how, our capability, our scale, because the runway, if we've done X amount, of scale in 5 years, right? And then you look at how much more runway that is possible in the retail convenience space, and, it's like, it's the path is there, and like we're either going to slowly get there, or someone can pour rocket fuel on it, inject their resources, lower a lot of the overhead and cost because of their economies of scale, and it's like this rocket ship type of thing. And so, but my intention was never really to sell the company when I started it. That was the number one question I got asked every time I talked to anyone, was like, would you sell it? And it's funny, with maybe no one ever thought of that with clothing, but I never got asked that with clothing, and maybe it wasn't like as much of a unique thing for me specifically, but no one ever asked me if I'd ever sell my clothing brand. But with candy, it was every day. It was like, would you sell it? Would you sell it? I was like, I don't know.
What was the bag story? So you're running this company for 5 years, and I remember when you sold, I texted you, and my buddy was like, oh yeah, you know Maxx a little bit, and it was almost like holy shit moment. You know?
No, it definitely was.
So tell me like how that came to be, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it almost seemed like it was like, is this real?
Yeah. So the Hershey acquisition happened it's got to be a record of it's a fast acquisition. I mean, it all happened in like 2 months. This is like right when I'm planning my wedding last year. So I basically had a meeting in September when I was in New York with someone, and I had like.
Did they cold email you or?
No, so I had a couple of like calls, like I'd almost had like one call a year with someone at Hershey. And because I remember when they first called me, same person who handled the deal at the final stage, but it was like, I was like, oh my God, like Hershey's emailing me and wants to set up a call.
Yeah.
And I was like, what is this about? But it was just like, they were just like, almost just like learning about like what I was doing, you know, hey, we see what you're doing. We like it, you know? And I remember when I got the first email like 2 years ago, I was like, oh man, is this going to happen? But nothing ever came from it. It was just like a casual type of thing. And I think there was probably like, because I think what we think is a big company to a big company is a small company.
Yeah,
right?
$75 million is like a small junior check.
Well,
to
it's also like, when I'm
Yeah.
scaling, I'm like, oh, we did $20 million this year. We did $30 million this year. It's like, crazy to me, but, that's like, peanuts to these bigger companies.
To them.
So they really want to see like, okay, you're doing well, but like, we need to make sure that like you're really on this path to like growth and like, hey, I'm sure some companies get bought like real fast in the first year or so, but a lot of times they probably want to make sure that it's not just like a trend or a flash in the pan or like, oh, do you see, like, are you really having this consistent growth year over year, not this little like pop and you're done. So I had a couple correspondents that were like 2 over the years before, but they were just didn't really
General
go
check-ins.
Yeah, it wasn't like, if you hit this number, we'll call you and then we'll talk about it. It was nothing of that. It was just like casual check-ins, like super friendly, no hints of anything kind of coming, just like relationship kind of building. I was like, okay, but I was just like, after I got off the call, I didn't let it get to my head, and I was like, okay, back to work. Like, let me just keep doing this thing.
Yeah.
So, and I would occasionally get contacted by like private equity firms.
Yeah, those come all the
There's
time.
like generic, like, hey, we're doing, whether it be, do you need investments? And luckily I never needed investments. Like, there was times when like cash got a little iffy, but we were profitable since day one. We just became more profitable over the years. And then really like early, like end of 2022, early 2023 was like when we really like, because again, I don't have a finance person. I don't have a like, it's me and like 4 other like operational level roles and then warehouse team, right?
Yeah.
It's like, so I literally was budgeting the money and deciding how much we spend. I'm sending the wires. I've sent every wire and ACH that needed to go out since day one of this company. It's like, so I was like managing the money and I'm like, man, how have I not screwed this up yet? I'm like really proud of myself. And then, so I was like, okay, I know we're good on cash and I'm just going to keep, we're good. We can keep scaling this company. So then in September, had a meeting with the Hershey people there. Again, really casual. It was almost like an in-person meeting of the same stuff that I've had before. And even I remember getting back to my hotel room with my wife, and she's like, "How was it? Like, what was it about?" I was like, "I don't know. Like, I don't know." Like, it was kind of the same. He said he's gonna email me a little bit to talk some more. And then like it was on September 11th. In September, and then that Friday was the first day that it was like, hey, here's some more people. Let's, we're going to start sending some forms to do some like due diligence in the thing. But it was never like, we want to buy your company. Yeah. here's the timeline. Here's what it is. It was just like, let's learn a little bit more about it. So I was like going through the process and going through the moves and, but I still was like, this definitely looks like they're like looking for an acquisition, but the words never came out of my mouth.
Were you ever worried that they're doing like research on you to go make their own brand or something?
That was in my head, but I was like, I'm someone that's it's probably to my detriment, but I always like look for the good in people, and I'm just
that's
like
a good quality.
Yeah, and I'm just like I just assume that people aren't out to. I hope that everyone's not out to like screw people over,
Right.
and that's probably my naiveness. But I had that same kind of mindset with Hershey, and luckily I was right, and it just started from there. And I'll tell you the due diligence process, which is where they just dive
Poke holes and all that, right? Yeah.
It's so many. I have never done more work on a project than that 2-month period. I mean, it was like you hear about like how like intensive the due diligence is, but it was. I mean, you essentially get asked like in phase 1, it's like, hey guys, here's 200 questions that are very specific about your company, and and this is just phase 1, and then you're like, oh shit, I haven't taken like a test in forever. I got to sit down. I'm doing it like I did back in school. I'm like, okay, I don't know question 3 and 4. I'll skip those ones. I'll come back to that. And I'll just do the ones I know. And then it's like, oh, I don't know the answer to this. I got to pull these documents. And so it was like me and Mona, who's like my right hand. She was the only person I told in the company about what was going on because I didn't want to spook anyone if anything fell through. But I was like, hey, Mona, something's happening, but keep us on the wraps. But like, I need you to help me with this. And so it was like, I mean, I would have some days I would have like 2 to 4 meetings like a day randomly. That was for like 2 months. And then when I started having like integrated meetings with like manufacturers, you're talking like, I mean, we would have meetings at like 3 a.m. because of the time change when like
with their team,
with Hershey and the manufacturer. And so like, I mean, it was just like a wild period of time. And it was like it was absolutely the most stressful like time period that I've ever gone through, because you also, I know a lot of people personally, and you hear about stories of, getting to the 5-yard line and it falling through because of something, whether they found out, but luckily our company was like really clean and lean, right?
Yeah. I was going to say there was a lot of due diligence, but the company's like P&L had to be with 4 people. Like there's not like money hiding left in. Yeah.
No, the only complex thing that probably came from us is that because like our whole company was run on Google Sheets between me and 2 other people, and like there's no rhyme or reason, and we had our methods of how we documented
NetSuite,
stuff.
no, yeah.
Don't even get me started on fucking NetSuite.
That could be a whole nother topic, a whole nother
NetSuite
podcast.
Is a bane in my existence. No, we didn't have any sort of ERP system. Like, so we were just Google Sheeting it. So like they're like, we need all these documents. I was like, I don't have those. We had to not make them up, but we had to make them like at that time. Yeah. And so I was like, man, even if this deal doesn't go through, I was like, I now have the most organized company in the world. I had like these folders of every document of everything. But it was really helpful that I didn't have no partners, no investors. So it was really clean business. But I'd heard, one of my buddies, Nick Bear, who owns BPN, he's told the story of where he was going to sell part of his company, and it fell through. Like he went through the due diligence, and he's saying how stressful it is, and you got to answer calls at any time of the day to like, you got to walk out of things because I got to take this call, and it fell through like a week before it was like supposed to clear. So I was just like, I remember telling my wife, I was like, this will be crazy if it actually happens, but like, I need to keep business as normal and keep my head, on straight, because it could not, and I can't let it deviate me from continuing to grow my business. And I remember like the final day it closed on, I think November 8th. Right, November 8th, something like that. And I remember like it was like, okay, here's the closing call where like all the accountants, all the lawyers, all the people get on, and it's like, yep, all right, I'm good. All right.
Send the signature.
Yeah, send the signature, wire goes out, and let's announce later today.
And was it I don't know, and you don't have to, was it a full acquisition, 90, 70%? Was there upside?
So they did an asset purchase, right? So they purchased all the assets of my parent company, Actual Candy. So they purchased all the assets of like Sour Strips and all the trademarks and all the characters. So yeah, they bought 100%. And then I'm still staying on as like kind of like a consultant, I guess. Mm-hmm. So I'm still staying on in the transitional period for honestly the foreseeable future. As I'm basically doing the exact same, I am doing the exact same thing that I was doing before I sold the company. Like my day to day is, besides having a couple more meetings like throughout the week with the Hershey team and new like retailers that, new doors that are kind of getting unlocked. My day to day is like 98% identical to what it was before.
So are you still making a lot of content for sour strips, like on your YouTube channel? And
Yeah, I mean, because to me, like, I still have a lot of things that I want sour strips to like continue to do.
Is there upside for you in it, or is it hard to? Did you lose that itch of like I have to do this now?
There's how can I word this? There's incentive for everyone for the business to continue to grow.
So
Yeah. So it's like, there's incentive for me to continue to scale the company and continue to do what's best in the company's interest. But again, like, I'm also, I'm 35, had this exit, and it's, a life-changing moment for, me and my family, my future family. But I'm young, and I got a lot of things to still do. And candy is like, again, like I'm a candy lover who turned into a business guy, but I'm still a candy lover at heart. And even with sour strips, I'm excited about this Hershey, acquisition and partnership, is because, not only is, Hershey in their portfolio, they have, they dominate in the chocolate space, right? And then they have, but they're really trying to push into the gummy side of things and like the sour. So I look at this as like, I think they're the best people. They're like the best people that could have bought the company, because it's not just another sour gummy in their portfolio. It's like, we want to really push into this category of sweets and snacks, and we want sour strips to be that brand. So now it's like sour strips is like, it's gonna be one of the big boys. Like it's really gonna be it. And I look at the brand as like this, like, this idea that I had forever ago. And I'm fine with not being the guy that still runs the company, but I put it out in the world, and I wanted to make an impact in the confectionery candy space. And for me, like, I still have a lot of value that I can still add to Hershey and sour strips to continue to like guide this brand, because it's really unique. Like, it's a really unique brand in itself, and the way that we market and the way that we do our strategy is really specific. So I still have me and my team have a lot of like value add that we can continue to put into the company. So I would love it, even after this kind of transitional period, like I would be open to 100% to continue to stay on to lead like the sour strips kind of like,
because you love it.
Love it. Yeah. And it's like, I'm like, before it was like, okay, I can do whatever I want, but now, maybe there's a little more regulations I have to kind of follow to make it more a little streamlined. But imagine now it's like, hey, you almost like, Max, come to us with your craziest ideas. Like, what do you want this brand to really be? Like, what events would be like your dream to like?
Sour Strip big.
Yeah, Sour Strips is the official sponsor of this, and it's like, and I have a lot of things in my head that I'm like, that I was eventually wanted to work towards, but now those doors can happen a lot quicker. Because at the end of the day, like, I want Sour Strips to be the candy that everyone is eating. I want it to be the thing that kids are growing up on these days. And, for a long time, it was all these other brands. And I think it's time for a new player to enter.
Totally. It seems like it's like a really good fit for you, because we hear stories too of like the full acquisitions, the clear house, brand changes, kind of declines. But for you,
if you change Sour Strips, like it would lose its authenticity of it, So things will probably tweak and adjust. Like they're going to have to. But like, I think, Hershey has been great during this entire process. And even like when they talk to me, they're like, hey, not only do we not want to, but like you can't lose the authenticity of Sour Strips, because that's what makes Sour Strips cool, is that it's cool, right? And so if you take that away, if you strip that away, it's going to tarnish like what it is.
Everything you build.
So I think that I think there's a huge runway of what we can still do, and there's a lot of ideas and a lot of product extensions that I want to do, and so I'm over the moon with this, and it allowed me to take chips off the table. Like, I've been working at this social media thing for like a long time, and my audience helps. It absolutely helps springboard the brand, but I spent 7 years building an audience to have it easy to launch a brand, from that point on, and so it was like finally to the point I was like, I've been doing well throughout my whole life, but I was like, what if I actually like reward myself and ensure like my family in the future that like, hey, this work that, your husband, your dad, your granddad did like early on, like he was like, I'm going to make sure that everyone can be rewarded from like the work that I put in. And it wasn't this like, cause I'd get comments sometimes like, well, what if your kid, like, they can't run the company. It's like, how do I know my kid wants to run the I'm like deciding what his future is. I was like, or I can help follow whatever dreams that he wants to do. And so
So going back to, you started creating content like 10 years ago about
2013, yeah.
Yeah. Where is content today? Like, you see business owners starting content. Facebook ads don't work as well. Like, how important is that to just business in general, coming from someone who, that's how you started?
Yeah. I think social media and content is like, it ain't going anywhere.
Yeah.
I think it's definitely changed. Even just as a, YouTuber who's been making videos I've made over 1,000 YouTube vlogs, consistently for the past over a decade. And I've seen the landscape shift. And the biggest shift has come from, really when COVID happened and like short form came out. It just changed the landscape. Because not only is like, it's just, you always have to be evolving, right? Like, I'd be like, hey, why are like views maybe lower down, down? But it's like a couple things. Like, not only is your audience growing up and they're growing with you, and that's great, but some of them have more responsibilities and there's like change and you have to adapt. But also like short form is really evolving, and on a business level, you just also have to be aware of it. Like, what worked 2-3 years ago that crushed it for you is not necessarily going to work now. And I think it's good because it shifts the market, and it makes it like what it is going to be, right? And on a brand perspective, I mean, I remember back with like the clothing stuff. I mean, when you do photo shoots, you'd go, do these crazy production, crazy cameras and like all this high quality stuff to launch a t-shirt, right? But now it's like, it's harder, but it's almost easier because now people just want like, get your iPhone, film like raw.
Throw it on this concrete.
Yeah. Have like your model guy, girl, just do like a raw, like little thing. Like it's like, it's almost like it makes it easier, but the problem is it's so saturated now. Everyone has access to it. Yeah. The bar is, where, when you started clothing, when I started back in the day, is like, I need to talk to the manufacturer. I was measuring t-shirt, shoulder drop seams at 12 o'clock at night and talking to my manufacturer. Now someone can, go to a middleman agency and they have access to all the manufacturers and they'll do all the measuring for you, and you're just to face the brand and say yes or no on color palettes and,
call it a day.
Yeah. And it's like, it's kind of like, people getting upset at like AI and like ChatGPT, the image creation, right? They're like, you're taking jobs from like designers, be like, listen, the world ain't slowing down because of you, right? And so you can either get like angry and yell at the clouds all you want and get frustrated and say, this is unfair or whatever, but like the world is going to pass you by. So it's like you either figure out how you can become so good that you can't become, you're not replaceable, or you use these tools to your advantage and you just accept it, because like technology, it's like when taxi drivers are yelling when Uber came out, and now, I'm see these like Waymos driving around, and this is the worst they'll ever be, but like you're ignorant if you don't think that's the future. Like you're ignorant if you don't think in 10 years it's just gonna be self-driving Ubers.
I was in Arizona, and it was late Friday night. I took an Uber. The guy was like high, and he was kind of sketchy. Next night, same time, took an Uber or took a Waymo, and I was like, this is so much better.
Yeah,
you don't have to talk to anybody. I trust it. So,
and this is the worst it'll ever be.
Yeah,
like you look at it like, oh, look, they made an error. It's like,
yeah,
my guy, like this is. It's like when ChatGPT is like, look, they gave him an extra finger. It's like, you're not looking at the broader picture if you're like worried about that. Like this is the worst it will ever be, and look where it's at. Like,
so if you were starting to be a content creator today, what type of content would you focus on? Would you do podcasts? Would you do vlogs? Like, how do you build an audience today?
I would do it differently than what I currently do, because I'm kind of like an old man yelling in the clouds, where I don't change my content. I just keep making vlogs for. I think if I was starting today, I would be on every platform. I'd be doing the short form. I'd probably be making
like a vlog that tells a story in a day, then you short form it up, or what type of
I think you got to do both. I think so the problem is, like, when you look at a lot of, let's say, people who are really popular on Instagram, really popular on TikTok, make these really short form. The problem is when you start being really well known for like some quirky thing you do, or quirky,
like all those Instagrammers that are like the funny people.
Correct. Yeah. Whether you're doing skits or you're like, food review or something, like you need to figure out how to turn stuff into business, because you're like, if you deviate from that, people are like, no, we want this one thing from you, right? Dance monkey. And and so I think you just have to, I think when you do long form, or when you let people into your life, I think it's like so impactful. There's a reason why you know, my audience that I've built over the years is like a ride or die with me because I'm, you know, raw with them.
And you're vulnerable about your calves.
Yeah.
Exactly.
They've been with you like the whole journey.
You have to. So you have to kind of do everything.
Yeah.
You need to be. It's harder and easier than it's ever been, right? Because it's so saturated. But now anyone who has a phone can, you know, start on these platforms. But a lot of people, the problem is that they think that they're gonna, if they don't blow up in 6 months, they think it's stupid or trash, or they'll be like kind of ignorant to. They'll basically not do anything else in life because like I want to be a content creator, but like the thing they're trying isn't working, and they're just like, no, I just got to keep going at it because everyone says to keep following your dreams, but they keep going down a path that isn't working rather than like navigating and deviating from these like, you know, things, and you got to try other things. And
I mean, you were doing it for a while. My old roommate was like, oh, you got to check out this guy Maxx, and then we started watching you. I started back in 2017 before Cut started. I did 10 vlogs and like you, Gary Vee, and Christian, I would kind of like watch you guys.
Yeah.
And yeah, I remember you would make fun. You did a good job because you were extremely vulnerable about your insecurities.
Yeah.
And I think that was a little different about you.
I was like B-Rabbit, you know? It was like, you know, I no one could make fun of how skinny I am because I would just be like, yeah, I know that I don't look like I lift, you know, but I'm strong. Like I know that I don't look, I know that I'm annoying. Like I would like kind of go into these things. And yeah, I mean, I think nowadays with short form, whether it be business or whatever, is like you just got to keep trying different things. And I'm a little bit of a different case because I've been doing it for so long. I have my super core audience, you know, and I can move a little bit differently at this stage of my life versus like me trying to make it as a content creator at this point. But even on a social media level for like businesses, you know, what we did with Sour Strips for a long time, you know, then I brought in, so we have like 2 people on our marketing team. Callie, who has been with us since day one, she helped pack orders from day one. Now she's like running marketing. And then one of our newer employees who celebrated her 1 year with us recently is Vanessa, but it's just like them 2 and me, right? And when you start bringing other people on, the way that you're doing content for so long that I'm like, this is what I want the brand to look like, and this is how, because I approve everything that goes out. And, you know, you also got to be like, hey, times are changing. Like you can adapt and evolve, because they'd be like, hey, what if we like started, you know, doing a little bit more of like this when I know you normally do this over here? And I'd be like, I don't know. But, you know, I'm like, let's try it out. Like, let's try these other things. And, you know, I think a lot of people get caught up in like doing things like one way. But you have to evolve, and you have to like navigate and deviate from that. And my team of, you know, my small team of the social media world has really changed like how Sour Strips, you know, handles on their social media, like what type of content they post. Let's post a little bit more of like the people behind the camera of like at these events. Like, yeah, we show these events, we show the candy, but like, who are the people that are doing it? And so we're starting to post a little bit more, and it brings a little bit more of like realism, I think, into the brand. So I think a lot of people just get caught up with doing things one way, and when it doesn't work, you're like, well, that's just because everyone else is stupid. And so you got to be open to.
Got to test and learn, because things change so quickly now.
If you came on and you were the head of content and for us, trying to get max distribution on our own content, is there a brand or idea that you think would work for us?
So when I think of cuts, I think really, really like clean, polished, like high end, you know, everyday, you know,
Athleisure.
staples. Yeah. Like staple items, you know, y'all's range has expanded a lot over the years. But I think that like, I think also the time is like you can be quirky, and like your athletes, your representatives can like, you know, do things that are like trends on sounds, like trends on these things that maybe are so like no, that's not the brand at all. But it's like, but that's what the world will like you don't know till you try. Like you don't know if you do a quirky, funny dance reel to like with the shirt that it's like, oh man, you know, this brand is like, you know, they're just like us. They're doing these things. So, if I was with any brand, it would be short form and trends, and because you can't ignore like what's working, right? You can't ignore, like, you see all these it's like the, you know, the day in the life trend that came out. The guy put his face in like the water bowl with
I do that.
Saratoga water. Yeah.
Not with Saratoga water, but I've been doing the bowl.
But it's like 2 days. I was like 2 days late to it, but I did like my face in like energy drinks and had Sour Strips in my mouth and like all these things.
Did that do well?
Yeah, like 400,000 on reels and stuff.
Oh, wow.
But like it's kind of those kind of things. Like
that's genius.
Like
quick to it. Yeah.
Yeah. With brands, like you need to have like young individuals, like whether they be like assisting or whatever, but you need like early, like you need like almost like the girls and the guys that are like sitting on scrolling on TikTok all day. Like those who you want. Yeah. That's who you want to be in your marketing team because they know all of like what's going on. And when there's these big trends, like you need to hop on it because it's
fast.
Like, yeah, it could just be views that do nothing, but it's like the brand's out there. And even if I look at everything as like this big picture thing. So if you post some sort of goofy content and it gets 1 million views, but like, oh my God, we only got 10 sales from this 1 million views. That was so stupid and it messed up the ethos of like what our brand kind of represents, right? You don't want to go too far, but like 10 sales. I don't look at it as 10 sales. I look at it as 10 people that now could be lifetime customers that then all 10 of those people have 20 friends. Like, man, I really like that shirt. And then you get one extra person from that person and that person tells this person. And it's a snowball.
Sure.
So it was like, and that was like a big thing I did with Sour Strips. It's like one of our biggest things that we've done since day one was like, I want Sour Strips to be out in the world at scale as much as possible. So our marketing spend was free product. Every photo we've ever done on Instagram is a giveaway for free candy. For influencers, we give candy out at scale, like at scale. Like we've slowed down slightly, but we were at one point we were giving like 10 to 15 PR boxes, new influencers per day for years. That's scale. And even if they had 20,000 followers, 10,000 followers, or like they were in this field, I was like, you don't understand. Like, you don't know who's at their house that is going to know about this brand. It's like, you just need the candy
word of mouth
there.
Right there. Yeah.
And then it turned into all these things. And then now, like, you know, a recent strategy was like going to my team. I was like, I think it was my wife's idea. It was like, hey, you should like start sending this like sororities and stuff, and like at schools. And I'm like, well, not really like influence. Like, you know, they're like more personal followings.
Yeah.
But I was
But
like,
the word of mouth is crazy.
yeah, but I was like, that's the whole other side of the spectrum is like, oh, now let's not go after influencers.
Yeah.
Let's go after like real world people.
Yeah.
And like, you know, we send these huge care packages to every sorority.
Like faded by 5.
Yeah.
And they'll get every single sorority girl to grab a bag and take a photo with all 100 of them. You're like, oh my gosh. Like, and because a lot of times like people without like these big followings will make a big deal about working with a brand. Yeah. And then this sorority sees it, and then that sorority's like, oh, wow, they did it to that. Can we do it? Can we do it? Can we do it? And it's like, so now you almost want to get out to like the social media world, but also to like
real people.
Yeah. It's kind of a weird world we're living in. We're like the non-influencer, the normal people, right?
We've done that a few times too, actually, to like office seeds. Like, so we're like, one of our personas is like an office bro, and we would send it to GoPro, we would send it to like Meta, and like same kind of thing. It was just word of mouth.
Yeah, and you just, I gave candy out. We still do it. You know,
you didn't bring me any candy today? What's going on?
I
buy online.
I'm gonna ship a big package here. We we'll do like, you know, powerlift. We're so big into the sports and fitness kind of world. So even in like we'll do powerlifting meets. So I give out like our marketing spend is like free candy because I look at that as like, you know, cost.
Everyone loves candy.
Exactly, and then all it takes is people who have never tried, you know, a shirt from you guys, a jogger from you guys, or whatever, to like try it once and then be like, this is my new go-to pant. This is my new go-to candy, right? Because you just need to get them to try it one time. And if the product is as good as you're like saying that it is, or the, you know, the candy's as good, or the clothing is as good, then like it'll speak for itself. It's kind of like, you know, especially guys, like, you know, we're pretty stuck in our ways. We wear the same thing every single day. We just want to wear generally a black t-shirt, and we'll wear the same pair of joggers till it, you know, falls apart, right? Yeah. And but like when, you know, if I go into a random, I don't know, it could be a Zara or something, or you see someone's shirt and like you put it on and it fits well. You're like, oh shit, I need 10 of these colors, like, you know, and I'll only wear these for, you know, and it's like, so you just need to get these products like into people's hands.
We have a saying in here, shirts on backs. So we've been seeding for years, and we started out with minor league baseball players because they would have an opportunity to go big.
We sponsor a minor league baseball team, the Tulsa Drillers. Yeah.
Oh, for real?
Nice. So we're the official sour candy of the minor league baseball team. Yeah.
That's great. Yeah, I feel like you guys should do something with the Savannah Bananas. Have you heard of it? It's like it's not an official minor league baseball team, but they make crazy content and sell out arenas.
Oh shit.
It's like social first. It's like
Social
a big,
first.
yeah. It's
With a
like,
name like that, I would imagine they have.
But they're very fun.
they do like dances and things, but yeah, it's like, you know, they play in baseball, but it's like they're truly creators.
They're creators,
entertainers too. But
the Harlem Globetrotters kind of.
Exactly. Well,
We're also really good at basketball.
Yeah. I even saw, it was like, I think it was like, I saw this post of one of the guys on the team, and his biggest like player he loved was Derek Jeter. And then Derek Jeter's son like loves him. And it's like a full circle moment. He's not even a pro athlete. Well, technically semi-pro, right?
Yeah.
But like these guys are capturing the attention of so many people now with the creator boom happening.
Yeah, that's why, like, really with any business, and it's a little more difficult with like clothing probably, but I'm always like, try to figure out a way to fit it into your like budget to almost give your product away for free as much as you can as like a marketing tactic, right? Because if it's as good as, if the candy's as good, if the clothing is as good, like they'll tell people, and those people will tell people, and they'll want to wear it all the time.
It's the best form of advertising there.
Exactly. And you know, yeah, you just want to always be like in people's faces as much as possible.
Because what does one of those things cost? Like in the sense, right? So doing, 15 a day, it's still not a huge cost.
It's not as cheap as you might think it is. And when you do it at scale,
You don't have to say, but
it's something that we can afford to give away at scale. It ain't.
If you're selling leather boots, it's a little bit harder.
It is, but you can find a way to do it. And that's
build
why
it into your budget.
That's why it's like, even on Instagram, a simple thing of like, hey, if we do giveaways on our post, right? It not only drives more engagement, right? Because it's going to get more comments, more likes, because you have to do something. Also, people can win, right? And let's say you do a post, it's going to get more engagement. And now if you give away, hey, we're going to give away 3 t-shirts, 3 people are going to get a t-shirt and a jogger. What was that? It costs you X amount of dollars. Yeah. But now there's 3. Now everyone realizes like, oh, I could win. And then when they actually win, then they're like, then they love the thing because they want it. Mm-hmm. Then they tell their people, then they like it, then they turn into a customer. So it's just like little things like that.
Totally.
I think you just want to be cool. You want to be cool.
Have a good product.
And how do you be cool to people? And how do you not like try to be deceitful or shady or, that's what I think Sour Strips has had, like this giant growth period, because it's a great product as its base, and it's a cool brand, right? And it tastes great, and we do cool things, and we're a little edgy, and we're funny, and we, and it also, helps that, when the packaging doesn't look like it's maybe made for 10-year-olds, it's like, and then we started giving it out to like, we'll have like Lil Yachty tag us on his story, and G-Eazy and like all these like athletes post us, and we'll send it to like Scottie Pippen's daughter, and like all these like names. And it's and one key thing that I did early on is like, if you knew who I was, you knew that I owned Sour Strips. But if you did not know who I was, you have no idea that I own Sour Strips. Mm-hmm. It was an early strategy. I think the first like photo or two of the account has like me in it. But other than that, I never was like, let's not put founded by Maxx Chewning on the bio. If we go into promos, don't put my face anywhere. Yeah. Not only am I not like that big of a creator, even when I was like at my peak, I was like, I need this brand to be bigger than me by far. Like I don't want it to be tied to me. Don't put my face on the bag. Don't like use my name as like a promotional thing. Like,
cause that always dies.
Yeah. And I was like, and it's like, because then if you become less popular, it's like, I need Sour Strips.
Who the hell is this guy?
Yeah. So I was like,
tiny calves.
I need Sour Strips. Yeah. Well, it's kind of like when we go into a new store, I was like, I knew I could sell it out if I was like, hey guys, if you live in, this area of California, we just went into this chain of stores, and I can sell it out with my audience in like a day, right? But like, that's really cool, and the store loves that. But can it sell out like week over week, month over month, year over year? It's great that we had this giant boom in Target, but we're a top selling candy year 2, year 3, year 4, right? And for you to do that, I mean, we're selling millions of bags a month of like candy in Target, right? So, and then like, and I get 50,000 views on my videos, so it ain't my audience, right? So
it's word of mouth.
Yeah, exactly. It's because, and so it has to be that. So if you're a big influencer and you start a brand, like you should really try to separate it as much, like utilize your brand to launch it, because 9 times out of 10, anyone who starts one of these brands has business partners in the back end, and they're gonna do all the back end stuff. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people want them to be the face of it, but they use their face too much, and it's great and it's gonna launch it, but then how is anyone gonna buy like the company or buy anything, because they have to buy you too, and you have to still be popular. And if you do one thing that is like controversial, and so it's this nightmare. But that's just my opinion from one guy who like, wasn't making, millions of views on YouTube, who launched a brand, but like no one knew I existed. I was telling you, like, there'd be these huge creators that would always do these. If you search like influencer product reviews or like influencer brand, reviews, there'll be these big videos that get millions of views, and they'll have like 15 products from like these huge creators, and there's all these brands. And I know that Sour Strips is doing way more revenue than some of these brands.
Because you created a real brand, not just an influencer.
Yeah, right? But like they don't even have Sour Strips on there because they have no idea that that an influencer owns the brand. Like they're just, it's like they don't even, it doesn't even, like try looking it up. Like go like influencer brand reviews, and it'll be like, here's Mr. Beast's product, and I forget all the people's names, but like there's a million products that have come out. Here's this like their water, their shampoo, or like all these things. But I was like, Sour Strips isn't on any of these, and Sour Strips is crushing it, and it should be on all these, but they don't have it because they don't even know I exist because I'm just like, and I think it was like this thing that I didn't plan for early on, but it just worked out that it was like, you can't be the face of it for so long unless like you're going to be the face of it forever.
I think it goes back to of like, you put all your time and resources on the brand and the product versus what you're talking about is they put all into marketing, and whoever's doing the back end stuff, they're not thinking about, okay, do I make it a little bit better resealable like label or make the candy? They're more looking for profit and using them for marketing. But then you're putting your heart and soul in this because you have so much passion.
Oh, bro, and
it shows, right?
I'm
like that's what
it
really wins at the end of the day because you're going to go the longer mile for all of it.
When we first like launched the brand, I went through like, it would cost me like $2,000 every time I changed the design of the bag to get new plates. But like, I every time we launched the product, I had like this big viewing window. But after like the first launch, I'd be like, okay, unless the candy is sitting perfectly in the bag, there's actually this like on the corner of this big window, like there's actually kind of some dead space. I was like, I hate that. So if the candy's not sitting perfect, like there's a little dead space. Okay, we need to make the window a little bit smaller. And then I was like, I did that like 3 times, and I'd make it like millimeters smaller. And I was like, okay, that's good. But I was like, now I feel like the window, it's just like the graphic, and it goes into the window. We should do like a color, like a border around it, like a border, so it kind of separates it a little bit. Like it was just all these tiny improvements. Yeah. But it's all just been from like, I think everyone thinks they're gonna launch like the 10 out of 10 product the first, but like you'll start in a good path, but then you just got to keep, iterating, quickly because like you should realize whether it be feedback from customers or also just you being passionate about the product. And I think that's what aided so much about like, I know I kind of like downplay my business acumen, right? But I really am not like a super big business guru, right?
I mean, you've been in it for 10 years now with,
I am, but I guess I don't do a lot of like the technical terms, If I was to sit down, I've done a podcast with him, but like if I was to sit down and have like Alex Hermosi ask me very specific business questions, I'd probably be like, like, what does that phrase mean? I don't know. Like what does that acronym
his
mean?
Dictionary is insane.
Yeah, I'm just like, I don't know these like really technical terms. Yeah. I did business decisions that like you could probably look back and be like, oh, you did this because you saw this and you saw these things. But at the time I was just like, I don't know. It seems like a good idea. Like it seems like a good idea. Trust your gut and be passionate about it. And like, I just a dude who loves candy, launched it. And now I'm like the candy guy, which is like, so kind of full circle.
Yeah. Right.
Are you, still focusing on working out and all that stuff post exit and
you see how jacked I am, bro?
I am. You look good.
Yeah, no, fitness is still a huge part. And also one of the biggest things that helped Sour Strips is launching a candy into the fitness industry because again,
like with protein,
sugar. We'll go to like Gymshark events. We'll go to all these events and people are like, is this healthy candy? I'm like, no, it's just candy. And they're like, why is it here? I'm like, well, you can, utilize it and
eat the sugar before you go work out. Yeah.
But like, I mean, we're sold in like Gold's Gyms now and like Crunch Fitness, and we're sold in like gyms and health shops. Yeah. It was never there before. Yeah. Like I brought this into the world, and I was like, if you can get the health and fitness people to like accept it and be like, yeah, you can eat this candy. You bounce.
How many
it in your life.
Is it like one bag? How many? If you crush the whole bag in a setting,
it'd be like a little under 100 carbs.
Oh, that's
yeah. Well, I was going to ask you if like product expansion is like endurance. I think it's huge because because I was saying like I've been like getting and riding my bikes like 40 miles, and it's like at that point like I'll eat anything. I'm running out of goose, and I was like
we set up a lot of booths at like 5K runs and everything. And we'll have the longest. I mean, we'll give out so much products. Runners because
I mean, sugar is instant energy, right? And it's good too.
So like launching in the fitness space was like really really good because it carved out that kind of thing.
And it's so authentic to you.
Yeah. And no, I'm still just as workout like 6 times a week. Still, the only thing that's changed with my fitness these days is I I retired the whole powerlifting thing. So I was big into strength training, powerlifting, competed, hit some like crazy numbers for like
it's just
my
not
body
worth
weight.
it anymore, right?
I recently had like hernia surgery and like pulled, and so after that, I was just like, I'm getting older, and now at this level, like for me to break the numbers that I did on like the deadlift and squat, and bench was always ass, but like deadlift was very impressive, squat was very impressive, but like for me to break those numbers, the amount of time and attention and focus I have to put into the gym is like God tier. And like, I can't deviate, I can't travel because I need to hit these specific workouts. So if my friends want to work out, I'd be like, sorry, I got to go power lift. I can't do that. So it just doesn't work with my life anymore. Like I have too much other stuff going on that where like, I want the gym to work around my life, not like my life work around the gym. And when I was younger and I had less responsibilities and like my only focus was like powerlifting, that was great. But now I want to stay in shape. I want to look really good. I want to, look good with my shirt off, and I can maintain that without risking, a lot of these like injuries. And as I get older, and I'm like, and there's no benefit. Like, I hit a 650-pound deadlift. For me to chase beyond that is like asking for trouble.
Yeah, it's risking injury.
Yeah, it's risking for injury, and for what? Like, like I already hit this monumental number. Like, because the only number between that is like 700, and 655 ain't gonna be any more impressive than 650. So I'm kind of like, the risk is not worth the reward, and like you just got to ask yourself that. And so, still love lifting. I'm actually putting this ridiculous home gym at my new house that I'm building.
Cold plunge, sauna, the whole
just
kit.
the gym itself. It's like a 2,100 square foot attached to my house, like gym. Like it's like a gym that I'm building because I love it that much. And it's not like a thing separated from the house. I'm like, no, it's incorporated into the house, and it's like a big gym with like 20 pieces of machinery with space in between, and like so. Fitness is a huge part of my life, like still to this day, and it'll be till the day I die.
And where do you live right now?
I live right outside of Houston, Texas.
Okay, so you're gonna stay there? Yeah,
so we're moving out to this area called Fulshear, Texas, which is about 2.5 hours from like Austin. It's about an hour from like downtown Houston, but close to my wife's family, so my in-laws. So her whole family, she's really, really tight knit with her.
Kid on the way.
Yeah, exactly. Kid on the way, but like, I mean, her whole family, there's like 9 of them, and they're like all hang out together. It's awesome to see, have traditions, and I'm like, so I want to stay close with them. I get along with them super well, and and I think even like my mom's like moving to Texas to be kind of close to us. So yeah, I'll be in Houston for the foreseeable future. Nice. And this house that I'm building, I'm planning on just dying in that house. So yeah,
so it's gonna be just man, that's got to be nice building a house.
It was like when I sold the company, we were actually already in the final stages. We ended up changing lots. We ended up to a much bigger, nicer neighborhood with, but like we were like in the final stages, about to start really, like we were like 6 months away from starting to build our custom house. And then when the acquisition happened, it was kind of like, oh, now we can really make our dreams come true of like how we really want to do it. So it was like this perfect timing too, like before I started building the house, where I was like, okay, now I can really build the house that we want with like, I'm not trying to go super crazy, but now it's like, hey, what do we want the future to look like? Hey, we want to host people at this house. Well, let's have these things at the house. So when people come over, there's, space for them. Let's entertain people. Let's have birthdays. And, when our kids grow up, let's have the dinners with all their friends and stuff at the house and have the parties there. And so now we're building the house for like the future that we want to have, rather than just the life we have now. So it was a really big blessing and timing when the acquisition happened, where I was like, oh, now I can not have to maybe stress about it as much, So
yeah, right.
It's really cool.
Awesome. So one big thing too, especially now that, we're kicking off the podcast again with you, like our community is built up of entrepreneurs, creators, builders, and, exactly why we're so excited to have you on the pod. But do you have any like piece of advice you can kind of give them? I think there was so many tidbits that we had kind of going through building a business, creator economy and all that, but maybe to kind of like resonate with our communities, anything you'd like to kind of say, or anyone that's trying to build something or do something that, you think it was, something that was true to you that you think really kind of helped you build what you did with Sour Strips?
Yeah, I think be authentic to yourself. And I think just, I like to say, in my videos a lot that I go, hey guys, if there was ever someone that you could look at and be like, this guy had like this level of success, like if this guy can do it, like anything is possible. And you know, I'm a goofy dude who like jokes around way too much and like, you know, doesn't take a lot of things serious and I still like locked in on business, did something that I was passionate about that maybe wasn't the norm. You know, had a small team, everyone thinks you have to do these like huge teams. And I think it's like follow your passion, but like people don't have patience, and people also, you know, the phrase of like paralysis by analysis is like look at my situation. I was surrounded by people that were just like doing, you know, 20, 30, 40, $100 million in all their businesses. And, you know, I have this clothing company that I'm trying to scale, and it's like, I'm not even a speck on comparison to like all these people. But I was just like, that's great for them. I'm staying on my path. I'm staying on my journey, and I'm going to keep on pushing on. And, you know, it shows like anything is possible. And I think,
and I love about yours, you weren't afraid to pivot. You know, Matt, you know, you were part of the Gymshark, Christian, his community, but you did the cavalier move and said, hey, I'm going to try candy because it was authentic to you. And I think in those circles, it could have been like, can he do that? But you didn't care.
I think with business is like, if you launch something that just makes sense, if you're an influencer or anything, a creator, and you launch a product, like you should ask yourself, like, when I launch this, is my audience going to say one of two things? Are they either going to say like, oh, like that's really strange. Like that doesn't make any sense. Or they're going to go, of course he came out with this. Well, of course she launched this thing. With candy, when I launched candy, it was like, everyone was like, of course Maxx came out with candy. You know, when I'd go to expos and have people stand in line for like 8 hours, and they would just, if you go back and watch my videos of me standing at these, you know, fitness expos, you look in the background, you see these mounds of like sour candy because people would bring it to me because like in my videos, I'm like talking about how much I love candy. So people would bring me candy as like, hey, you know, I love candy. So like when I launched a candy business, it's like, of course Maxx did that. Like, of course he launched a sour candy business because that's like his brand, right? So I think if you're a creator, like you got to launch a product that it makes sense with your audience, not just something that like someone convinced you that will like make you a bunch of money, because not only are you going to enjoy it more, because if you're just like,
people can smell that.
Yeah, they can smell it. And also I think people should not be afraid to like get their hands dirty and do the work themselves. Like, you know, I had a great team alongside of me.
But you sold at what, four people on the team?
Yeah, there's like 4 or 5 of us that are like pulling big levers in the company. And then everyone has a very important role, but after that, it's a lot of like the warehouse distribution side of the business. But it's really like me and 3, 4 other people that are, you know,
great.
Yeah. And you just got to believe that you can do the damn thing, because, you know, someone's got to do it and someone can do it. And like, why can't it be you? And so that's why I kind of looked at it. And, you know, I didn't know what I was getting into. I didn't have a plan, didn't have a business plan, didn't know the margins I was trying to hit, didn't know what price I was going to sell the candy at. I was just like, you just figure it out. But a lot of times people just like, they keep waiting and waiting and waiting. And then they'll be stuck in that thing of like, oh man, that person launched that. Oh, I had that idea. I should have done that forever ago. Yeah. You just got to start small and scale, and don't compare yourself to other people. And if the world wants it, like, they'll accept it.
And don't be that guy that you just mentioned. I hear that all the time. Oh, I had that idea. Mm-hmm. Well, so did 20 other people, but this guy did it.
Yeah. And that's why I'm saying, like, look around at the things you buy, consume, find a small problem with it that you're like, man, I use this every day, but I just hate this one thing about this, and there's not a solution for it because I would have known about it because I'm obsessed with this thing. Yeah. Be the person to fixes that one little thing. And there's probably millions and millions of people that are willing to give you money for the variation of that product that already exists. You don't need to reinvent the wheel. You're tweaking it, right? That's really what, and that's how the whole industry moves forward. It's like tweaks from thing, you know. It's rare that someone's going to be like the inventor of something or like the first person to do it. Mm-hmm. But it's like, you don't necessarily carbon copy things, but you just need to like take an idea and improve on it. And that shifts the whole industry. Totally. That's what we're trying to do.
Just make it better.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maxx, thanks for coming in, bro.
Absolutely.
Let's go.